Right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is Monday morning. I hope everybody's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to rock and roll for the day. See Fish and Golf drew first blood, but hey, Fish, you're watching on YouTube. We got you one of them free premium memberships. Got to get them numbers up on Rumble, baby. But good morning, everybody. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm running a few minutes behind. The wife had to run out to run some errands, and so, of course, 5-year-old wakes up and panics because there's nobody in the house. Yes, there's other people in the house, baby girl. You have siblings, but yeah. Let's deal with this. Okay. So we got news over the weekend. Interesting news. Interesting. And well, let's just take a look at this. I'll start with Trump's post on Truth. Rebuild and open Alcatraz. I'm already in, baby. I'm already in. For too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent. I don't have much of a Trump impersonation. For too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminals. The dregs of society who will never contribute anything other than misery and suffering. Yeah, 100%. When we were a more serious nation in times past, we did not hesitate to lock up the most dangerous criminals and keep them far away from anyone they could harm. That's the way it's supposed to be. No longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. That is why today I am directing the Bureau of Prisons, together with the Department of Justice, FBI, and Homeland Security, to reopen and substantially enlarge and rebuild Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. We will no longer be held hostage to criminals, thugs, and judges that are afraid to do their job and allow us to remove criminals who came into our country illegally. The reopening of Alcatraz will serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice. We will make America great again. And wow, that's... Y'all, I don't know about you, but I am here for it. Hell yes, I am here for it. Now, let's be clear. Alcatraz is not in great shape altogether. One of the primary reasons that Alcatraz was closed to begin with, 60 years ago, is because the prison was old. It was in disrepair, had some problems with crumbling infrastructure. So this is going to equal an investment. There's going to have to be money spent on rebuilding this prison. Now, we talked a little bit on the show Saturday evening about being somewhat disappointed that Doge has had to amend their target from 1 trillion to half a billion, or I'm sorry, from 1 trillion to half a trillion. They've revised down the target expectation of what they're going to be able to actually cut through Doge. And okay, it's disappointing, but for 150, somewhere within 150 billion in savings, I bet we can find a little bit of money to rebuild Alcatraz. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so hey, Sergeant Major, your timing is excellent. I was just about to say I'm not seeing any comments coming from Rumble, and so I was suddenly getting worried that there was something wrong with the connection to Rumble comments. No, I see. Actually, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of comments from Rumble. I see Pitt Danny when I bring us up on Rumble. I see Dad. I see Fish and Golf. I see Jason and Danny and Aaron. But for some reason, I've only gotten one comment onto the blended chat over here. So you guys that are watching on Rumble, do me a favor and drop a comment in the chat real quick. Just say hello, say good morning. Just let me see if it's caught up and it's populating those chats so that I make sure I'm not missing you guys if you have something to say later in the show. There it is. So Sergeant Major says, make the prisoners rebuild Alcatraz. I'm actually pretty comfortable with that. And then Aaron Olson says, make the illegals do it. Most of them have building experience. Ha, 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 ha. And yeah. Now, that's actually something worth talking about, and I'd have to do some digging to really dive in on that, Aaron. The idea that most of them have building experience. Well, the fact is that the place that most of us encounter illegals is in construction trades, but that is not the majority of illegal immigrants. I'd have to pull out some data and take a look at it, and maybe that's worth doing a Saturday premium show on, or maybe that's just worth one of the morning shows. But it's my suspicion that the majority of them don't work at all. Danny says, make California do it. Well, there's a lot to like with that idea, but the fact is California is broke. California, we're fourth biggest, fifth biggest, whatever economy in the world. Yeah, they also have one of the highest debts of any government in the world. They're not really doing the gig there. So the Donald interviewed and approached on this. He was asked about this, and I've got that clip here. So let's take a look at that before we read the article.
Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, they came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And
let's be clear about that too. The Democrats are pulling their hair out. So, well, we need a trial for every single illegal alien. This is Alinsky 101. This is Rules for Radical 101. Okay? Attacking the system and overwhelming the system. This is Cloward Piven taken from economics to policy, to criminal policy, to justice policy, right? The lefties, right? Okay, your average lefty voter who's just a completely bought in shitbird, they may think that they want trials for all the illegals, but let's be clear. Everybody that's demanding them, everybody with a platform, your lefty shills, your paid agents provocateur, right? Your Democrat activists, your Democrat elected officials who are demanding that there needs to be a trial for every single illegal before they can be deported. Okay, that's not historically how that's handled. Never has been, and it never should be. I won't say it never will be because, I mean, look where we've landed on trans, where we're, but never should be. But we've talked about this, Danny. I think you were even at the meeting with, damn, I forget his name. He was the chair of the Georgia GOP at the time, Schaefer, I want to say. But this was back in 2021. We were still actively talking about, legal actions regarding the 2020 election, et cetera, et cetera. And he pointed out that in every single election, there is so much voter fraud that the courts say they cannot handle all of it, and so they choose to prosecute none of it. And the only time anybody actually gets prosecuted for voter fraud is when it's so blatant, obvious, and public that it cannot be ignored, right? And so because there's so much of it, they choose to prosecute almost none of it. And the Democrats rely on that. The Democrats rely on the system being overwhelmed so that the system stops working, or at least so that you can think of the system as kind of a concrete balloon. And if you put enough water in it, it may not burst, but it'll start to crack. And then you can slip things through there. Yeah, David Schaefer. Thank you, Danny. Yeah, David Schaefer's the one that said it. I've got him on camera somewhere explaining it. And he went into more detail about it. But basically, he was explaining there's so much voter fraud every election that because the courts say they cannot handle all of it, they choose to prosecute none of it. And that's what they're going for when they're demanding that every single hostile foreign invader gets his day in court. And they're recoding the language. Well, they deserve due process. They're getting due process. They invaded our country, and we very politely, rather than doing the right thing, which is to kill enemy combatants when you encounter them in the conduct of a war, which is what they are doing. Yes, invading a sovereign territory is an act of war. Yes. Not my opinion, legal definition. But we are very politely, instead of treating them like the enemy combatants that they are, we're putting them on a bus, we're putting them on a plane, and we're sending them back where they came from. But we have a whole new problem. We have drug-dealing gangs, violent terrorist gangs from places like Venezuela who refuse to let us deport their criminals that they sent to us back to them. Right? In a lot of ways, we shouldn't even be talking about deportation right now. We should be executing those criminals. Hey, you're a Venezuelan violent gang member? No trial, just put a round in them, because it may be time to declare war on Venezuela. If you've got a hostile foreign entity that is sending an invading force, and then when you try to very politely treat them like mere illegitimate immigrants and send them back, and they refuse to accept their criminal aliens back into their own country and into their own justice system, because what they're really trying to do, at least on the surface of it, what they appear to be trying to do is just to fob off the cost of housing their criminals on us and our bloated, corrupt welfare state. That is wartime conduct. They're sending an invading force of deranged sociopaths to predate on our tax system. It's unacceptable. So whenever these Dems demand that each and every one of these hostile foreign invaders be given a day in court, trying to conflate going to court with getting due process, those are not the same thing, right? All court proceedings are due process. Not all due process is court proceeding. Some due process is just, hey, you don't belong here, we're sending you home. What they're trying to do is overwhelm the system and put our justice system and our courts in a position where they can say there's too much illegal immigration to prosecute all of it. And so, in order to be fair to everybody who needs to be prosecuted, we're just not going to prosecute anybody. That's what they're looking for. That's the objective, is to just shut down deportation entirely. Because if the law is followed and these hostile foreign invaders are ejected as they should be, at a minimum, then in 5 years when the census comes around, California and New York and every other sanctuary state gets to add another 2, 3, 4 electoral college votes by illegitimately counting the hostile foreign invaders that they are illegally housing in their fucking rogue states. It really is that simple. It's about election interference. It's about Cloward Piven, functional systemic destruction. It's about robbing you, the taxpayer, blind.
And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, it's got quite a history, frankly. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
Where did you get?
So I love the idea. I love it. Reopen Alcatraz. And it's not just me that loves it, right? It's not just us. It's not just conservatives that like the idea of doing something right. let's take a peek in on the sociopaths at The View, because, and this is from back during the election period, right? Listen to this.
And so I think to make a point, to prove a point, put him in the clink. Oh, why not? Put him in the clink. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! And we got, and there's Whoopi. I suddenly want to play you the clip of Robin Williams talking about visiting with Coco the gorilla.
I don't want this to sound like I'm doing
Wait. I got to hear it again.
Oh, yeah. I don't want this to sound like I'm doing wishful thinking.
Yes.
But which prison would be best?
I know which one.
I'm gonna give
Rikers.
you, Michael. Well, that's what I asked. Number one is Rikers. But you know, I'm okay if he goes to Alcatraz and they reopen it.
Maybe.
You know, what about Guantanamo Bay? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that'd be close to Mar-a-Lago.
So remember, they're talking about locking him up. And, of course, Donald Trump got a lot of flack for talking about locking up Hillary. Look, Donald Trump, he was convicted of 34 felonies. That is a lie. He was convicted on 34 misdemeanors, of which he could not be charged legally. And so they were illegally converted to felonies by a corrupt judge. Now, the particular legal minutia and maneuvering that went on there is a lot to go into, but let me be very, very clear on this. I want you guys to pay close attention. Anytime somebody tells you that he was convicted of 34 felonies, ask them what those felonies were. They will not be able to answer the question, because what they did is they took a couple of, like, 3 or 4 business transactions, and then they said, oh, well, these were fraud because we say they were fraud. The real estate fraudster, Letitia James, who's committing real and very serious real estate fraud, so much so that not because of the fact that she committed the fraud and it should be disqualified from holding the AG office by dint of her guilt, but rather that part of the fraud includes that she's listed her primary residence as being outside of the state of New York, which makes her ineligible to run for the office to begin with at the time she ran. And this woman has accused Donald Trump of fraud, which the so-called victims vehemently argue were not defrauded. And then they made the argument that these misdemeanors were felonies because they were committed in connection with a felony. But the felony in connection with which those misdemeanors were converted has never been listed and never been charged. Excuse me. There is no underlying felony. There is a bizarre novel legal theory that they can assume that he committed some felony, and then they can convert misdemeanors to felonies based on that presupposition. Completely illegitimate, completely psychotic. So, excuse me. Good God. I don't know what got me there. So let's take a look. I'm gonna go to Pelosi for the liberal shit take. You've got Pelosi says Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary more than 60 years ago. It is now a very popular national park and major tourist attraction. The president's proposal is not a serious one. You sure about that? Nancy, because I seem to recall back around 2015, 2016, Donald Trump came down the escalator. I'm going to run for president. And you were definitely one of the braying donkeys that said, oh, it's not serious. It's a publicity stunt. He's a clown. He's a TV actor. He's a clown. It's just a media stunt, free publicity. He's not serious. I dare say that here we are in Trump's second term after 2 actual impeachment processes, the filing of some 12 or 13 attempted impeachments, multiple attempted assassinations, and record-breaking liberty and prosperity under the greatest president in my lifetime, that, well, I think he's pretty fucking serious, Nancy. In fact, I bet you if you check his fridge, he's got more beef than ice cream, princess. So, this, I hope, is going to give us more Taco Tuesdays as we start locking up hostile foreign invaders and domestic terrorists, domestic criminals, domestic organized crime guys. Lock them up. But like I was saying earlier, right? And here's another piece, and maybe we can put this bug in the president's ear. Alcatraz is in need of some serious reconstruction, renovation, rebuilding, updating to get it to the level that we can actually use it as a functioning prison. So there's gonna have to be some money spent, and yeah, let the illegals do the work. Make the prisoners do the work. That all sounds great. Maybe you take in one civilian crew, clean that bad boy up, and get a half a dozen or so cells up and working in good condition. Get some toilet facilities, shower, and a kitchen up in good condition, and move in the first batch of prisoners, and they can live in the small renovated section. And then you work them all day, every day. You work them like rented mules. You'll work the shit out of them. And they rebuild the prison, right? And, one by one, they restore the next cell. And you keep reminding them, hey, guys, the sooner you get the next cell block restored, the sooner we bring in more prisoners to work and to restore the building. And many hands makes light work. So the faster you rebuild this to get more and more prisoners in here to do the work, the less hard you have to work. You work hard now, you teach them something valuable. You teach them to swallow the frog. Right? There's that old I'll probably butcher this one because I'm not as familiar with it, but there's an old like Aesop's fable type of tale about a village that lived in just enormous prosperity, but it was all through some magic blessing they had where in order to keep the blessing going, everybody had to eat a magic frog first thing in the morning. And raw, live, they had to take the frog, and it was an unpleasant experience. You had to eat the frog. So every morning, everybody just, first thing in the morning, first thing you do, you choke that sumbitch down, you eat the frog. And then the rest of your life is great. But eating the frog sucks. It's not great, right? It's gross, it stinks, it tastes bad, and it's squirmy and yucky, and it pops in your mouth. You don't want to eat the frog. But you get up and you get it done, you get it out of the way. Teach these sons of bitches to eat their frogs. You're going to work your dicks off for the first couple of weeks or whatever, and restore. The more cell blocks you restore, the faster we get more bodies in here. The faster the work gets done. The faster you get back to playing basketball in the yard. All right, let's do it. The faster, yes, Pit Danny, absolutely. The faster we give you something else to work on. And Sergeant Major, I love this idea. Just drop them off and let them have it one another or build a facility. Yeah, we could just, parachute them in, and then once a week we drop a pallet of MREs on them. If that pallet doesn't make it to the end of the week, tough shit, guys. You're on the rock. You can try to swim to shore, but it's cold, there's sharks, and we've also installed machine gun nests. That'd be the best thing right there. That's what we need. I'm about to have to wrap this up, but that's how you fund this son of a bitch, right? You mount maw deuces on pinion posts, right? All around Alcatraz between the shore and the island. All right, you got them locked in, so you got these machine guns, maw deuces, 240 Bravos, 249s, hell, maybe some Dishkas. You got them locked in there. You got the belt in kind of a shielded thing, so that people can't just access the ammo, but they've got a coin slot on them, right? Right? They got a coin slot on them, and they work like the binoculars up there. Where you drop in your coin, you use the binoculars. Well, they're all pointed at Alcatraz, right? You drop your coin in, tourist. Drop your coin in. You get your selfie, shooting bad guys trying to swim across the water. Never need to use them because that water's cold. So. What? Marcus Willie Jackward. Yes, this is a live show. Yes, I can see your comment, and I don't know what you think some random bizarre crypto has to do with anything I'm talking about this morning. So you might be watching the wrong show this morning. But hey, thanks for joining us, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, guys, I got to button this one up. I got to get my ass up to, I think I'm going to McDonough first thing. And then, yeah, y'all be safe out there, guys. Thanks for watching this morning. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.